for build errors or for build successes, or send it just to an announcements build. I mentioned earlier that CodeBeamer provides some extensions to ANTs. It has three main ones: a CB release, which will take a built jar file and publish it into a document management tool; a CB post, which is basically what we'll see with the notification forums. It will stick a message into the notification forum; or an export report, which can be used to export a predefined report onto a local file system. So through a combination of putting some of these additional tasks together with existing ANT functionality, gives you a very powerful and flexible way of creating and publishing information. Alright, so I'll just close that down and we'll have a look at the forum. Oh, have I closed the whole thing down? Well, that doesn't matter. We'll go in and look at the demo developer. We can have a look at the forum summary. Hopefully it's not logged us out in the meantime. And here we see there are three forums that are set up: a discussion and news and an announcements. Forums work pretty much as you would expect them to be. You can post topics to them, you can reply to topics, and you can also rate topics to sort of get some community feel going for as what is a good topic or not, and get feedback on what's being posted. The announcements one has been used for the build results. So we should see when we get in there a history of all the builds, and we can see the one we submitted today saying that the build was successful. There's not an awful lot of detail stored in these. It's purely just an indicator that builds run and it is successful and what the build was, and you can then link back. So that's really a very brief introduction to the forum functionality and a quick overview of what the builds can give you.
Okay, Martin, thank you for that. We're getting close now to the hour marker, which was our target. I'm actually going to take control very briefly, go back to the presentation. Just bear with me a second, because the last final part is a Q&A session. I know that Martin has been answering various people's questions as they've arisen. I don't think he's managed to keep up with everybody, so apologies if you've not had a complete answer. So let me just go to the very end. So in the time that Martin was talking, it gave me an opportunity to pick out a few questions. I think you might have answered some of these already directly to people, but not necessarily to the wider audience. So Martin, if you're comfortable, I'd like to just ask you, I don't know, three or four questions. Let's see how time goes. So how easy is it to migrate from existing solutions to CodeBeamer?
CodeBeamer is very easy to get up and running and to migrate data to. There's a number of ways that you can get information into it. We saw the document manager that can very quickly take a zip file of a flat file structure, and on the import process it will extract that out to replicate your full file structure. So taking one zip of an existing file management system will bring it all into CodeBeamer. On the change management and the workflow side with your trackers, there are actually migration tools for Bugzilla and the Mantis bug trackers, and it has the facility to import CSV files. Most change management tools on the market enable you to export to a CSV file, so you can very quickly move your existing change management into CodeBeamer. We saw how CodeBeamer can integrate very tightly with Subversion. The same tight integration is available with Mercurial, and with the SCM API it's very easy to plug it into most existing version control systems. So without much of a migration, you can just bring into CodeBeamer your existing source code repository. There's so many different features of CodeBeamer that there's a lot of different tools that tend to have to be brought in. Whilst there isn't a wiki migration tool as yet, its WYSIWYG function allows you to just cut and paste an existing wiki page and paste it directly into CodeBeamer, and it will interpret what it pastes very well. So you can quickly move your wikis across, and if you're doing any form of validation as you go, it can take care of that, and it's a very quick process. So as tools go, it's very open and very easy to get up and running, but the devil's in the detail on migration, and you need to look at how much history and depth of history you're wanting to bring across, and that may present some additional challenges, but CodeBeamer in the main has got all the tools and usability to get you up and running very quickly.
Okay, Martin, thanks for that. I think I would just emphasize one of the last points that Martin made, which is often companies that are looking to migrate don't always want to bring, in actual fact the majority nowadays, don't want to bring a lot of legacy information across. Maybe they're just interested in bringing, say, the latest open records across, a baseline of Subversion, or baseline from your version control tool, etc. So it's generally not a massively or painful event. Obviously, it just depends upon your environment and what you must keep or can share. Okay, another question, please, Martin. If I read this rightly, with CodeBeamer having its own user management, is this another admin overhead to maintain on top of email, source code tools, corporate LAN? Do you understand that? Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, no, I think I've got that. I mean, basically, you're introducing another tool into your infrastructure that has users. You need user management. You need to be able to control that. And with lots and lots of point tools around the place, each of them having their own user management, it can become quite an overhead to administer these. CodeBeamer can be isolated from everything else if you do so desire. But one of its strengths is, again, it integrates very nicely with LDAP or Active Directory. So if you do have a corporate directory of users, then you can just plug CodeBeamer into it, and those user credentials will be reused on CodeBeamer. And again, you can have a fine degree of permissions and mapping of roles to groups within that, so as to keep your security model in place. It's actually, with things like LDAP, it does actually streamline the admin process, because it will automatically create valid LDAP users a CodeBeamer account. So to some extent, the management side of the users is reduced by that ability. It sits on top of Subversion, and it can sit on top of Mercurial, and it can manage those repositories as well. So it brings, again, into a centralized management tool the control of your version control systems as well. And because it's integrated with all the other features such as the document management, the wiki, the chat systems, the trackers, it's all a centralized set of users that get into all these tools. So it can pretty much fit into a corporate system without too much overhead in terms of management.
So if I understand correctly, Martin, that one of the strengths also of CodeBeamer is that you can remotely, via the browser interface, via CodeBeamer itself, you can manage Subversion repositories. And I believe it's the only tool on the market that gives you that kind of web-based capability to do that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's one of the, it is one of the key strengths. I'm certainly not aware at the moment of any other Subversion graphical interface that allows you to remotely manage the repository. With CodeBeamer, you can set all the ACL permissions, access control, onto the folders and directories and repositories directly through CodeBeamer. So you don't have to have direct access to the server. It does the same with Mercurial, and using the Apache authentication, if you're serving your version control system via Apache, it can manage and update and repass that based on the permissions that you set within